So Adam Akula asks a really good question. If the underlying carrier wave does move to and fro where it coexists with itself regardless of where it is, would its path back to itself be faster? It could be. The question is, is the hypertime wavelength always the same? Not necessarily. Would we know? I don't know of a way to detect it yet. And so yeah, there could be different sorts of time, different sorts of things that relate to the nature of our nature that change our, might even change our physical laws in subtle ways throughout the various time spaces. So yeah, the answer to that is probably yes. I don't know for sure. The concept is that the persistence of matter as it relates to the structure of the astrotome relates to this translation. And the distance between these translations may not always be the same, even though our perception of the persistence is the same. And so there may be different sort of formulations of the types of worlds or types of time spaces that we see as the same thing. But an important point with that, it's not perceptible, because what we are using to measure the speed is the light itself. And since the light itself is not the carrier of the light, since it is riding on a subcarrier wave that we perceive only in its standing position, the movement through that common carrier is imperceptible to us, because technically we don't exist in between the moments. And so there's an issue about the continuity of the world that we live in, that is a very, very it's sort of a underlying a theme with this. There's a time in between our times through which what we are physically and how we manifest physically is an unknown. And this is it's sort of scary, it's sort of spooky, but at the same time, I think it's something we need to face and sort out. So thanks for asking that, Adam. So Captain Cosmos asks, so the interference of these colliding waves is making a pattern that could be called a particle, because each pulse of the wave all collide slightly different, making the particle appear to move. Is that right? So really the particle is not there, but the interference pattern is shifting along the 6 axes. That's a very good assimilation of the concept. It's a concept of a standing wave. There's a pattern that persists in the waveforms, and that pattern is what is being translated through the astrotome. And so the pattern is being translated through this hypersymmetric or supersymmetric, if you want to say, space, that where the pattern rematerializes is slightly different, but hypersymmetric. It has a symmetry to it where it appears to be the same. And so this is the Earth's atmosphere. This is the place where we appear to meet what we perceive as outer space, and that is the key to understanding the nature of the hypertime wavelength and the nature of the astrotome, sorting out those symmetries. TKM Jerickson writes, Thought Bubble, does Venus or other planetary bodies have earthquake/coronal hole connection, or would the observation be different if we were on that planet? Thanks. And you're tuned in there. The issue is that it's our time space that's being translated. And so Venus's time space, if you were on Venus, it might look a little different. And so yeah, that's a good point. But what the way that we're going to have to sort the axes out is a serious question, because the way to approach it might be more based on wavelength. And so an axis might be not a single point in space, but a single type of energy from space. And so this would be where you would have the multiple dimensional analysis fall out of what is our common understanding. So this is why I haven't named a secondary time axis, because the primary time axis might be, in a sense, multiple. There might be lots of primary time axes that all relate to one thing that we see distributed through time space because of our three-dimensional nature. And so the higher dimension might be better analyzed that way. Even if you were necessarily on Venus, it would still be you that was translated through the primary time axis. And so if that comet was still affecting your translation through time space, then yes, you would still see it.